Hey James, this is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. I'm going to go through and talk about your motion and your mechanics and break it down frame by frame and kind of go over each step and sort of break down, what we look for at each spot. Look at how your lower body's working in relation to your upper body, making sure everything's nice and balanced. And basically, making sure that we're in a spot where we're able to consistently repeat our mechanics, to be able to deliver the ball with as much, velocity and torque as we can, and, just make sure that we're utilizing our whole body, and we'll kind of go through there. So we'll start here back at the start and go over what we look for. So basically, out of the windup, all right, the biggest thing that we try to get everybody to do it is to limit movements. All right, the more that we move from side to side, back to back, the more we kind of get offline. It's just harder to get consistent. So one of the biggest things that you're going to see here is that you really step, far back here. So what I want you to kind of watch is your posture here. So as you start stepping here, all right, you can see you step back, and you can see how your body is now completely, back. You get back on this back heel out here, all right, and you're back at this point. Okay, so right here, here's the rubber, all right, and here's your body back here. Excuse me. Okay, so basically what this doing is this is just kind of creating a little bit of a timing issue where you're kind of getting back. But the biggest thing is sort of momentum. You get your first movements backwards, and then you're trying to take that backwards and get it forward, and so that just sort of isn't as efficient. If you think about sprinters on the starting blocks, when they start, they're already loaded back, and their first movement's forward. All right, so when we're loading all the way back, it's just not getting us in a nice consistent spot, and then you can see you're kind of laboring to get that foot in front of the rubber. And so to kind of make sure you're getting there, you got your eyes down at the ground, and then you're getting up here, and you're still looking down at the ground, and still looking down, still looking down, still looking down, still looking down, and now you're trying to pick up the target at this point here. All right, so you're trying to pick up the target, you're trying to throw a strike, in a pretty small area from 60 feet 6 inches, and you're just picking up the target right here. All right, so pitching's it's a real big visualization, process too. The more we can kind of look, focus, the more sort of our eyes are locked in, the better our direction's going to be. And so just try to get to that point where, once this leg starts coming up, it doesn't seem like it'll be a big deal, but it helps out so much. Is once this leg starts up, you need to have your eyes on that target, all right? And so there's just a lot of movement going on, and so if we can kind of try to tone it down a bit where once we're back over here, all right, you really don't see a whole lot of movement from that back leg, all right? You might see a little bit back, a little bit to the side, but you want to try to feel yourself staying over that back leg, staying over the rubber as you rotate, as you start your mechanics, all right, as you start your delivery. So just something to kind of work on too. And also, if you're doing that much, and there's a runner on third, and you're going for the windup, and you take that long, they're more apt to steal home on you. So just something to work on. It's an easy fix. Eyes on that target, not as far back. Usually we'll have our guys just kind of kick off to the side a little bit. Generally, we don't want anything backwards, so we're kind of more apt to be to the side, to almost a little bit. Stepping in front a little bit. Okay, so once we get up to balance, all right, so once our balance point is in line, so our legs right at the top of the path right here, all right, you're doing a good job of getting your hips closed. All right, again, your eyes are down, get those eyes up on that target, and at this point what we look for is our timing. So this is where the timing happens. All right, you're staying over your back leg, which is good. Okay, a lot of times, especially with big movement, you'll see you start to drift forward, but you're staying back, which is good. Okay, so now what we want to try to get going is the whole engine, the whole driving force of our mechanics is right here in the hips, and so we want them to start leading down the mound. We want them to go first, and then this leg just kind of lags behind, staying behind our hips. to get going. So we want to see that go, and then we want to see our hands break over this rubber. All right, we don't want to see our body go. Now our body's out here, and then our hands break. We want to try to see them break over that rubber because it's a lot easier to time. So you can see your hips are starting to go, your hands are breaking. All right, everything's going pretty good. All right, you're letting your hips get out, and you're getting a pretty good drive. All right, the one thing I want to sort of key in on is this front glove. All right, this left side really doesn't have a whole lot to do with mechanics, but it just kind of acts as like a balance. All right, so if our front arm's off center or it's pulling out early, our body's generally going to lead towards it. It's going to kind of follow it. And so when you pop this glove up a little bit early, you can see your palms rotated up to the sky. That's going to cause you to either curl in early or pull that left side open. And so you're just trying to think about, not having any wrist movement, no pronating, no supinating of your wrist. Just think about, just kind of you're lifting up with your elbow, but your wrist isn't turned to the side, because as we step through the motion here, you can see that little curl. All right, your glove tucks in, curls, and so then at your foot strike, which is right here, looks like it's about right here at this frame. All right, you can see this glove's already kind of turned up, and you're out front a little bit. All right, so you see that turn right there. But the biggest thing with this, all right, is your lower body looks pretty good. All right, you're getting some good extension. You might be able to get a little bit more, but what I want you to really key on is your posture. All right, and you can see how you're leaning forward with everything. Okay, so right now, all your direction is, basically going this way. And so when you're going this way, obviously the catcher isn't down here. The catcher's going to be up on this part here. So what you're going to have to kind of do is you're going to have to push the ball through your release point here. And so you can see how that arm kind of drops a little bit and kind of pushes through that release point. And now the ball, whoops, accidentally hit the play button. So now if we track our ball path right here, all right, let me clear this one. So here's the ball there, and it gets out of frame there. Let me get this one here. So you can see that this angle is kind of up and getting pushed a little bit. All right, so when we get back to this point at our foot strike, which would be right here, when we have our weight back, looks like it's about right here. So when we get our our head over our back hip a little bit more, obviously your spine would probably be more at this place here, but what we want to look for is a little bit more perpendicular to the flat ground shoulders. And what's going to help with that is this front side. All right, so you have that elbow up a little bit higher, but you haven't turned that glove in, so now your glove's staying out over that front foot. What that's going to do is that's going to kind of match up your backside too a little bit. So now you're here. Now the shoulders and everything, we have a little bit more upward to sort of parallel tilt instead of tilting straight down this ground. And then when we're kind of more linear here, now we're able to stay on top of that ball and drive that ball downhill instead of kind of pushing it and then trying to find that path. So it's just a little bit more powerful position. So just something to just keep loaded back on that back side, and then through your release point, you'd see that back foot still on the ground and that leg extended all the way out front. So you got your head and your chest out over your front foot, but you're not going to see this bend in this leg. You're going to see, right here, you're not quite standing up, but you can see your head's kind of over your back foot. We want to try to see that whole body out over that front foot, creating that angle through that release point, because you're getting pretty good extension. It's just a matter of using more of that body and getting everything rolling. So again, all in all, pretty solid. Now it's just a matter of putting those few things together, making it easier to repeat, making it more, efficient, and then you're going to be good to go. But the biggest thing is just, eyes on that target and just let everything work. Stay closed down the mound as long as you can. So anyways, thanks for making it out to camp. Hopefully you had a great time, and we look forward to seeing you again with the ABC.